Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's Appraisal Buzzcast. I'm Jim Morrison. With me, as always, is our host, Hal Humphreys. Let me bring him in. Hey, Hal, how are you doing?
Jim, I'm doing fantastic. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Well, we are very excited to welcome on our guest today, Jeff Morley from Accurity Valuation. Let me bring him in. Hey, Jeff.
Hello, Jim. Hi, Hal. Great to be with you guys.
Jeff, so good to see you, man. How you been?
I can't complain. We were just commenting things are getting cold around here, which is maybe a false sign of winter coming, but it's on its way, apparently.
I'm very much looking forward to some cooler temperatures. It's here in Tennessee, it gets awful hot in the summertime. And as you can see, I've got the sweater on. It's just a little cool out today. So yeah, all is good. Jeff, I'm absolutely tickled to have you on as guest today on Appraisal Buzzcast. For those in the room, for those on the show that don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about you, how you got into this business.
Yeah, you bet. I'll keep to the Reader's Digest version for you, Hal. But initially, I was thinking maybe engineering was the career for me. As I got into some of the courses, I really liked a lot of the math and science classes, but I didn't really find a discipline in engineering that I liked. I had grown up seeing my dad being an appraiser, had never really given a lot of thought to, hey, maybe I'll do that someday. And until I was in college and then started, looking at it a little more seriously, kind of tagging along and stuff, and found through actually having some hands-on experience that I really quite enjoyed it. It was, it's been a great profession, which isn't news to you, I know, but I was fortunate really to have him partnered with a commercial and MAI appraiser. And so had had the good fortune of growing up in the profession, doing residential and commercial, appraisal work. I went on to get the MAI designation as well as the SRA, and I've done some things in the industry, but have found that it really is just a lot of fun. Real estate's kind of in my blood. The valuation, analytical part, I really enjoy, and so that's kind of what got me into it and where I'm at today.
Awesome. Yeah, you and I both came to this business the old-fashioned way. We were born into it.
Right.
All right, let me do this. Let me take a quick break and we'll hear from one of our sponsors and we'll be right back.
Are you wondering how property insurance is changing in the wake of climate events and natural disasters? Need a primer on appraising religious properties? Want to learn how tech tools can streamline your workload? The Appraisal Institute's Trending Topics Thursdays webinar series is designed to help appraisers everywhere do their best work by keeping a pulse on industry trends, tools, and relevant skills. Join the Appraisal Institute as a member to gain access to our on-demand library of timely content featuring leading experts, or join us live for the next webinar. Live sessions are free to attend for members and non-members alike. Visit appraisalinstitute.org to explore the free webinar series.
Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to the Appraisal Buzz. I'm Hal Humphreys, your host, and I'm joined today by my friend Jeff Morley. Jeff is on the board of directors at the National Association of Appraisers. He is also involved heavily with the trainee committee over at the NAA. Now, Jeff, we have some new and really cool things coming up at ACTS this year, the conference out in San Antonio. Be there April 5th through the 8th. Tell us a little bit of this new option for the conference and what it means for new appraisers.
Yeah, I'm really glad that we're talking about this, Hal, and appreciate you setting that up. Anybody who hasn't been to ACTS, I would encourage that you come and check it out. It's been a really fun conference that moves around the country. It's been held in a number of different locations at this point, and we've wanted to do some things that we hoped would be valuable or beneficial. And so, what you're talking about for a number of years, both at ACTS and at the Appraisal Summit, we've had a trainee and a supervisor event where we've tried to bring in people with valuable perspectives on what the nuances, the aspects, the challenges of being a trainee looking for a supervisor, or a supervisor with some of the challenges of effectively, training a trainee. One of the new thing that we're doing with ACTS this go around is we, through some feedback that was wonderful, we've decided to do an offsite. We're calling it a field trip, kind of harkening back to some of the days in school. I think will be a good time, but we're going to go offsite with both aspiring appraisers, maybe newly minted appraisers, or maybe the veterans who aren't yet comfortable with some of the mobile inspection technology. And we've secured a location with a home builder in the area where they're going to allow us to come on site and do some training and some practice with using mobile inspection applications, uh, giving some guidance to new and aspiring appraisers around different phases of construction, different construction materials and types, and those sorts of things. So we're going to get out of the conference room and out into the field and spend a couple of hours doing, some of those things. What I found was that when I making the move and the transition from board and pencil to an iPad or some sort of a tablet, it really helped having somebody who knew what they were doing to answer the questions. When you're out in the field and the stupid technology isn't doing what you want it to, it's really easy to just throw your hands up and go back to what you know works. So we're hoping that whether it's somebody's first exposure or they've tried it before and not totally converted to the mobile inspection tech, that we can help knock down some of those barriers by getting on site and actually doing it hands on.
I love the idea, the idea of a field trip, getting off site, getting out. I mean, if nothing else, you get to see a little bit of the surrounding area instead of being in the hotel the entire time. But getting out and actually, if you're a trainee and you're doing this, you're actually getting hands-on experience out in the field, looking at properties and identifying not only quality and condition, stuff like that, but it's also a chance you're going to be out there with other appraisers to learn building elements. What is a soffit? What is an eave? What is the difference between a hip and a gable? Those kind of things will be readily available for you to learn on the field trip. Jeff, this is such a fantastic idea. Whose idea was this?
Boy, that's a good question. So one of the things, and I would encourage people to check out NAA, the idea came out of one of the committees that I co-chair with Stephanie. And so as we were having kind of a follow-up to our trainee event that we had in Las Vegas at the Appraisal Summit, somebody said, on the committee made the comment, hey, if I could remember who it was, I would give them the credit here. This is not my idea, so I'm not trying to plagiarize, on somebody else's bright idea.
Was Ben Maxwell in that meeting?
Ben was, I believe, yes.
Okay, I may be wrong, but I think Ben has been pushing this for a little bit.
You bet. Yeah, I've had some great conversations with Ben around that, and where the idea originated, I'm not exactly sure. I'm happy to give the credit to Ben. I'm not taking it. But it was through this collaboration in a committee, and kind of the side point here is that it's really rewarding to be involved with a national association, with committees, giving feedback and doing things that can turn into a meaningful, tangible event in this case, for example. But part of the feedback was, somebody in the committee had said, hey, my trainee came to one of these prior events. They sat through 2 days of the courses. They're not yet an appraiser. A lot of the things that they were hearing from representatives from Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and the Appraisal Foundation, though is good information, it was a little bit over their head for their stage of the career. Boy, it really would have been cool if they could have learned something like how to use this mobile inspection technology that I don't know and I'm not able to teach them very well. And so we started riffing on the idea of, well, what would it take to go offsite? Is it possible that we do something that's not just sitting inside of some sort of a conference room in the conference center talking about things? Could we actually go put our hands on it? And so that's the evolution of this conversation coming out of one of our committees. And we're really excited. It's going to be a first go around. So for anybody who does come and participate, we'll ask for a little bit of grace and patience as we work out some of the bugs, not having done this before. But it was an organic idea that just came out of kind of a free flow conversation within our committee.
I love it. I love it. So if somebody's coming to ACTS, which I strongly recommend you do, if somebody's coming to ACTS, how would they get involved in this session?
You bet. So at the time of registration, and we're pulling together some of the details and the marketing. I don't honestly know yet, and I probably should, whether registration is open yet. I don't think it is, but at the time of registration, it will be an event that you can sign up for specifically, as well as the supervisor trainee event. We are partnering with the ADI team, and there's going to be an ADI event on the Sunday before the primary 2 days of the conference. So we're coordinating some of our kind of pre-conference event, in conjunction with that. But This will be one of those events and one of those kind of optional things that you can sign up for. So I would encourage you to do that, and certainly reach out, whether to me or Teresa or Hal. I'll offer you up as well as a source of knowledge and all things wisdom when it comes to NAA. But it'll be easy enough to sign up for, and would really encourage anybody. I mean, it's our intention in the moment is new appraisers, trainees, but anybody who wants this type of an experience would welcome and love to have you.
I love it. I love it. So we'll say this: space is limited. We only have one bus, and there's a certain number of people that can go on this little field trip. So if you're interested, check the NAA website, check the ACTS conference website, and we'll let you know when the registration is open. You will get notification about that. I'm sure we'll be mentioning it on the Buzzcast when it opens up, but check the website. Know that the number of people that are going to get to be on the field trip is going to be limited. So if you want to do it, sign up quickly.
Hey, Hal, before we go to break on this topic real quick, Jeff, if they are an experienced appraiser but don't have any knowledge of how to use some of these scanning tools and technology, this just popped up as we were talking about it. Is that somebody that could come too? Somebody who's used to doing the notepad and all that, who wants to get into doing this digitally?
Yes. We promise not to ridicule anyone. Sorry to cut you off, Hal. But yes, absolutely. And I appreciate you bringing up the point that the space will be limited. Because this is the first go around, we don't know what to expect in terms of response. And if it's overwhelming, then our hope is to be able to expand it on a future, ACTS conference event. But it will be kind of a first come, first serve type of registration. But I appreciate the question, Jim. Yes, anybody who's interested in learning the technology, and if you're coming with a supervisor or with a trainee and want to be out on site with them, there's no reason you couldn't both sign up. But just bear in mind that space will be limited in this go around.
Yeah, and so, again, space will be limited, and I would just say this: this was created with the trainee and the new appraiser in mind. So if you're an old grizzled appraiser like Jeff and me, and you've been doing this for a long time, you just want to come along for kicks and giggles, that's totally fine. But I would say, if we get there and there's a trainee that would like to go and it's booked up, and you're an old grizzled appraiser like us, maybe consider giving up your seat. This really is intended to support the trainee community, but I think it's going to be fantastic. Jeff, I'm really excited about it. So I will do this now. I will take a break, and we will hear from one of our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
LIA Administrators and Insurance Services, serving valuation professionals since 1978. We provide E&O insurance with a commitment to superior customer service, outstanding liability education, and unmatched claim defense, benefiting over 10,000 real estate professionals nationwide. Explore our exclusive appraiser liability education by Peter Christensen and cost-effective seminars designed to foster your growth. Our underwriters, with an average of 26 years of experience each, are dedicated to supporting appraisers. Visit liability.com to discover how LIA can safeguard your business.
Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to the Appraisal Buzzcast. I'm Hal Humphreys, your host, and I've got Jeff Morley on the line with me today. We've been talking about the ACTS conference and this crazy notion of a field trip, which we're all really excited about. Check that out. Jeff, I want to move on to the next topic, and that is you and Mark Verrett have a new podcast out. What's the name of that podcast?
You bet. We've called it Market Moves with Mark and Jeff. Easy enough to find where a lot of the podcasts are hosted.
Okay. And tell us what is this new endeavor? Tell us a little bit about it.
You bet. Well, unfortunately, Hal, I've got a little bit of a bone to pick with you in this regard. You make it look so natural and easy to be behind a camera and a microphone. I thought, how hard can this be, right? So it turns out it can be pretty hard. There are people like you that just make it look easy when it's in fact really not. The genesis of this has really kind of come about. I'm still on our state board. I'm just concluding a second 4-year term, and one of the things that came up as kind of one of the big changes or evolutions was this acceptance of the PREA program, or practical applications of real estate appraisal, and And Mark and I were having some conversations around what is this? We see a lot of either kind of incorrect information or not a lot of information in general about it. And so it was really kind of born out of an intellectual curiosity. What is this thing? Why is it here? Where is it? Is it going to be a problem for in the profession or not? And so, to kick off this podcast, we did a 10-part kind of mini series exploring a bunch of angles, bringing on some guests with some firsthand and in-depth knowledge about the PREA program, which has been a lot of fun. We've really enjoyed it. We may find some other intellectual curiosities that we do other little mini series on, for example. But we're pivoting a little bit from that to just share perspectives, from appraisers on the real estate market, some of the economic news and influences that impact all things real estate. And it's kind of a fun excuse to get together and chat with him. So we're having a good time with it.
I love it. I love it. And, here's the thing, putting together a podcast, to do it halfway decent, it takes a lot of work. I don't think I could pull this off if it were for all the work that Jim Morrison puts into the front end and the production side. And then we've got Aaliyah on the back end doing edits and that kind of stuff. It takes a lot of work. So hats off to you for starting it. Real quick, what are some of the guests you've had on so far?
Yeah, you bet. So in our PREA mini series, we've had some industry, players or participants. We had Sean Telford, who has served on the AQB, at the conception and kind of evolution of the PREA concept from the Appraisal Foundation's perspective. We had at the time Cindy Chance, who was the Appraisal Institute CEO, come on and share their perspective from the Institute's side. There's been a little bit of turmoil over there. We found that episode has gotten some extra hits, I think, as a result there. But I really appreciate them for being willing to come on and talk with us about it. We had Kelly Davids from the Appraisal Foundation share her perspective about why this came about, why it was needed, what needs and it may be filling out there in the market in the space. We had one of the supervisors or kind of the lead mentor within the PREA program, Dana Thornberry, came on and shared her perspective, as well as two of the recent graduates, Chris and Pete, share their perspective and what's it like going through this and what do you actually do in the program? How prepared do they feel that it's made them to, be out turned into the wild and stuff. Outside of that, we did recently have Jim Amarin come on and talk about artificial intelligence. He literally wrote the book on it. So we figured, hey, who better to have come and talk to us about that a little bit. Yeah. And so we've had some fun guests. A lot of it will be us, talking back and forth to each other, but as we can get guests that are more impressive than us, which is a low bar to clear, we've sure enjoyed having them on as well. So
you sell yourself short, Jeff. So guys, if you're out there listening to the Appraisal Buzzcast, look, we do not consider other podcasts to be competition. We like to promote our friends in the industry. Check it out, Market Moves with Mark and Jeff. Did I get that right?
You did. Appreciate it, Hal. Okay. Thank you.
Market Moves with Mark and Jeff. Check it out wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm real excited about the podcast, Jeff, and I will be paying attention to it going forward. I have listened to a couple of the episodes, and the exploration of the PREA program is one of those things. I think it's really important for two specific reasons. Number one, anything we can do to get the word out about the PREA program, I think is a really good thing. The other thing is anything we can do to get, appraisers like us who have been in the business for quite some time to understand what PREA is and what it means. I think that's a really good thing to do. So thank you for putting that together, and we look forward to more episodes from you guys coming forward. Jeff, I can't thank you enough for being on the show with us today. This is a part of the show where I usually call Jim Morrison back in and ask him if he's got some kind of a crazy question that's going to flummox me or stump us and make us look like idiots. So, Jim, do we have such a question today?
We do have an anonymous appraiser question, and we definitely appreciate all the questions from our audience. And if you have any questions for our experts, reach out to us at comments@appraisalbuzz.com. So this question says, I'm preparing an appraisal for a credit union conventional purchase and encountering a unique situation. The property consists of two separate parcels. The main subject home is on approximately half an acre which is common for the area. A separate waterfront parcel is located 400 feet down the street, separated from the main property by 2 homes and another street. The arrangement is not typical for the area, although waterfront properties across the road are common. The lender wants both parcels included in the same appraisal report. However, Fannie Mae guidelines seem to suggest that this is 2 separate appraisals. I'm seeking advice on how to proceed with this appraisal. I'll let you guys go ahead with that.
Jeff, I'm just going to leave this one to you, buddy.
Well, that's unfortunate because my answer was going to be refer the appraisal assignment to Hal. He'll be able to figure it out.
Here's the thing. If it's a credit union loan, I'm not sure that Freddie is going to be involved with that. Fannie is going to be involved with that. I think Freddie Mac usually does the credit union loans and Fannie Mae does the more standard lender loans, although I'm not certain about that. So if I'm wrong about that, all of you people out there in appraiser land, feel free to chime in and tell me that I'm wrong. I will take the feedback. But I think historically speaking, Freddie Mac was kind of the secondary market mortgage purchaser that dealt primarily with credit union loans. So that would be the first thing I would say. So I would check out Freddie's guidelines as well. I think the question comes down to, you can appraise anything that's out there. The question comes down to, is it misleading to group them in as a single property? I think it might be pushing up against misleading in this case because it's not unusual for homes to have water access across the street. This one has it a block or 2 away. That might seem a little bit misleading. So you're going to have to ask yourself that question first. The second question comes down to, who is your intended user? And that's not just the bank or the credit union. That is the secondary mortgage market purchaser that's going to be buying that loan. So I would lean real heavily on, if you think it's going to Fannie or Freddie, check out their regulations and see what they have to say. Jeff, what are your thoughts?
You bet. Well, I definitely had that thought as well, Hal, as far as, this is really a situation where you need to have good communication with your client. The Fannie guidelines may or may not apply. That's one thing to understand and then, proceed accordingly. One or two other thoughts that have also come to mind in this, they've stated that it's not typical in the market. So I agree with you in that however you proceed, you want to be very careful not to be misleading. And one of the areas of focus is going to be the highest and best use. Does this waterfront parcel across the street and down the street have a separate highest and best use? That should be addressed one way or the other in the appraisal report if you're going to include both of them. If the client says, I'm asking you for this in a single report because we're keeping it in-house or because I know that we're okay with that from the client's perspective, I do think under the circumstances, it probably could be done. I see situations, and this may be a little bit analogous, where we'll have an as-is and an as-repaired value, and sometimes the client will want, homes that reflect the as-is condition of the property, pre-repair, pre-remodel, and then post-repair or post-remodel. And so sometimes in the same report, you may give 2 different data sets to represent an as-is and an as-repaired value. It's possible that you may need to include some land comparable sales, that you may need to provide some support, depending on your highest and best use conclusion as to how this separate parcel should be valued and reported, whether in aggregate or separate and apart from, but still in the same appraisal report. It's pretty common in the commercial space to include multiple parcels in a single appraisal report. You just have to be very clear about what does that value represent and what does it not represent. And it may not just simply be the aggregation of those 2. So at the end of the day, you got to make sure you got the highest and best use analyzed and reported appropriately for each parcel. And then you communicate that clearly to the client, assuming that they are on board. Now, it may be news to them that could be a problem from a secondary markets perspective, Hal, as you said, but the client communication is going to be the first step, and then secondarily going through the proper analytical steps.
Yeah, and here's the thing. As you started to get into your answer, I'm kind of reading through the question again, and it hit me that both parcels included in the same appraisal report, it is entirely possible to have 2, 3, 4 appraised values inside of one appraisal report. So, I mean, that is very possible to do as an appraiser. I've worked on countless estates on the commercial side where we do one big report and we have several appraised values inside of that one report. The trick is to be very clear about what you're doing, and if it is going to the secondary market, you've got to understand what it is they need. But I would say that's your client's job is to find out, to know where it's going to be going and what their requirements are. You need to know what those requirements are as an appraiser. But I mean, I think at the end of the day, it comes back down to who's the intended user, what's the intended use, and be very clear about what you're doing in the report. So, Jeff, I think we're singing off the same sheet of music there.
I agree. Absolutely. And if in doubt, just refer it over to Hal.
Yeah, and I will give you Jeff's phone number, direct line. You can call him and ask him the question.
Sounds like a deal.
I love it. Jim Morrison, what else do we need to cover today?
Just thanking everyone for the continued votes on the Buzzy Awards. We've got hundreds of votes already. We really appreciate that feedback and you guys supporting, the Appraiser of the Year and all that. So we'll be excited to see that the voting for that ends December 1st. So keep those votes coming.
Yeah, and as we do these podcasts, we will always offer a link in the description to the Buzzy Awards as long as that's available for you to make your vote. Do that. Click on over, cast your vote for the various categories. We're really excited to see who comes out on top. And I'm going to suggest that next year we're going to see a new podcast in the best of podcast list.
We'll see. TBD on that. But excited for the voting. Yeah, absolutely. Go out and vote, everybody.
Yep. All right. Anything else, Jim?
No, that's it.
In which case, for Jim Morrison and Jeff Morley, I'm Hal Humphreys, and that is your appraisal buzz for this week.